BTL, coming at you. Good Monday, everybody. Welcome to BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Yes, I am in studio. My counterpart for BTL, he is on Kentucky Lake as we speak, getting ready for the Costa. Matthew Pangrack, trying to get it done on Kentucky Lake. Very, very interested to see how Matthew does this week, but he's going to be out all week long, hopefully kicking off this first event in the Costa division. He's fishing two divisions with the AFCO Bass Boot Camp, and we're going to see how Matthew does this week on a very, very tough Kentucky Lake. We'll see. We'll see. A couple of nicknames that my counterpart has kind of coined over the weekend. One that I heard that was rolling around was Hollywood. And let's get to it right off the bat. Folks, he did a great job. Did a great job over on FLW in a very, very stingy condition on Grand Lake. Not a whole lot of fish catches on camera. And he did two really, really long days in studio. And I think the man did a great job. And if you caught any of the action, he did good. He did really good. And I'm proud to say that he represented BTL very well over the 2 days on Grand Lake. Really talked about his knowledge on the body of water and did an outstanding job in kind of breaking down the areas of the lake, some of the patterns that was going on the lake. And Jeremy Lawler got it done. And folks, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know what it is about that orange, red kicker blade, orangish red, sunshine, sunrise, whatever you want to call it. That right there was the ticket. How many times did we see that over on the FLW event at Grand Lake? That orange kicker blade making an appearance with just about everybody. But an interesting way to break the tie. I had no idea over on the FLW side. They go back to whatever the day 3 standings were, and that's how they determine the winner. He was tied with the gentleman from South Africa, I believe, and Lawler gets the W off of the tiebreaker. And I think I didn't go back and check, but I think it was 2016 that he won the BFL All-American. The guy's got a ton of experience on the Ozark Lakes, and no surprise there, but a very, very stingy Grand Lake. And Matt and I talked about it. It gets in that phase right before the spawn so many times. So here's what we're going to do. On Wednesday, we're going to have Bradley Hallman in studio once again breaking down his week on Grand Lake. And there's not too many people in this state, folks, that has more experience and more knowledge on that body of water than Brad Hallman. So it's going to be really, really cool to hear his take on how stingy it was. I think he only had 3 fish after he made the cut. And then I think he finished 16th. I should have had the standings pulled up. I believe he finished 16th. But a great week. Did not have a limit on his final day. And we'll get all into how he's going to break down what his performance was like on Grand Lake this week at the FLW Tour event. All right, the other event taking place over the weekend, and I forgot to mention we're going to have a great show today. We're going to have Brian Latimer on. He's actually on his way back home and experienced a little bit of mechanical issues on his trailer, and he texted me very, very early this morning. I thought he was maybe playing a April Fool's joke on me, but not the case. He's going to be ready to go here in about 5-10 minutes. And then once we get to Brian after we finish the interview with Brian, we're going to get Dave Rush on, who was at the MLF event in Raleigh, and get his take on Jacob Porosnik's win. And folks, I'm going to tell you right now, it was pretty cool. It was cool to watch Wheeler catch all those fish on a frog. Catching an 8-pounder on a frog, and this time of the year, anytime, and you know, if you've watched this show, how much of a topwater nut I am, to be able to see some of the strikes and some of the just vicious bites that attacked that frog during Jacob Wheeler's final day, it was a treat. And Porosnik gets it done. We're working on trying to get him on the show. There is a possibility we may have a fourth show this week. If I could get Porosnik scheduled for Thursday, I might do that. I think one of the things that got lost from the MLF thing, and Matt and I have talked about this an enormous amount of time, one of the most impressive rounds that we've seen so far after 3 events on the BPT was Kelly Jordan's 80-pound performance on day 1. Unbelievable. And, you know, with the way that the format is and the way that weights are dropped, it kind of got lost in the shuffle. But that has got to be one of the most impressive days so far after 3 events that have taken place, and it kind of got lost. I think Kelly ended up finishing in the 20s, maybe the 30s. I don't know. I'll pull the standings up here when we go to break. But very, very impressive by KJ, what he was able to do. And I think those trio of lakes really showed out for the Raleigh area, and we'll see if they're going to get a lot of pressure over the next 3-4 weeks with the spawn full into play and all the catches that were showcased during the MLF event there. We shall see what kind of pressure comes after the success that so many of the anglers had on those trio of lakes. I also want to mention that we're going to take a break and go right to Brian. There was a press release that came out very, very early this morning from Major League Fishing, and it was the announcement of a new hire in the management ranks, a guy by the name of Jeff Klatchko, and I'm hoping that I'm pronouncing his last name right. This is big time, folks, and we're going to see. You hear me talk about it all the time. We're going to see if this guy can use his experience, his connections, his portfolio, and his experience to bring in some of those non-endemics to Major League Fishing. This guy's resume is stellar, and I'm just guessing. But this guy has to be pricey to hire because his resume is stout. He has an enormous amount of experience in the sports marketing, sports advertising world. He spent 14 years with NBC Sports Group. He has got, I would have to imagine, a pretty substantial portfolio. And I know we talk business, and I'm actually going to work on trying to get this guy on the show because I am intrigued by his decision to come over to Major League Fishing after so much success that he's had in the main sports kind of genre of so many things that were taking place over at NBC Sports. He was vice president of sales and marketing. He worked for Universal Sports Sales and Marketing. He was director of Olympic sales for a substantial amount of time, and it looks like he started out as an account executive for NBC Sports. But this is huge, and everybody over at Major League Fishing, especially the anglers, they should be very, very excited about this hire because if anybody can get this thing done with the non-endemics, it sounds like this guy's got the resume, the contacts, the connections, and the experience to see if we're going to get the Gatorades, the Coca-Colas, you know, the non-endemics that is really going to grow the revenue base for what these guys are going to be able to make from an earnings standpoint. And, I mean, let's face it, guys, it is enormously expensive to be able to do what they do over on Major League Fishing. So very, very intrigued by this hire. And once again, this guy, he's a heavy hitter, and we're going to see if Major League Fishing goes out there and utilizes his skill set, his knowledge, and his experience to hopefully capture some of the non-endemics out there and get them involved with Major League Fishing. So quite the hire there. All right, last thing I want to mention, and then we'll take a break and come back with Brian Latimer, is yes, my wager, if you listen to the previous shows, my wager with Andy Montgomery, hey, it's a push. Duke gets upset. North Carolina goes down. So Andy was texting me the whole time after North Carolina lost, and yesterday when Duke was playing in a very, very, very entertaining game. Guess it's going to be a push, Jeffries. Guess it's going to be a tie. I really need Duke to win. And we had big things on the line for that. Had an original Vixen going up against two original Wiggleworts. So since it was a push, Andy and I both decided that whoever's in the final game, looks like we're going to go ahead and pony up a wager between us. It might be Wiggleworts versus Vixens once again. With me flying solo, guys, I'm going to try and get to the instant feedback and try and answer all your questions, but it's kind of hard when I don't. I miss my friend over on the other side. Where's he at? Hopefully he's going to catch some fish this week. All right, everybody, we're going to take a break and come back with Brian Latimer here on a Monday. I also want to mention tomorrow we're going to have Hank Cherry on live from the water during his practice as he gets ready for the Elite Series event. And then I mentioned already that we're going to have Brad Hallman in studio on Wednesday. A jam-packed week once again right here on BTL. We'll be right back with Brian Latimer. Everybody stay tuned.
Sleek new design with easy control file. The clearest images underwater with uncompromising range. Live mapping from the touchscreen. View notifications, video, even Google Maps on screen. And for the first time ever, real-time view of fish movements with live sight sonar. HDS Live. New from Lowrance.
It's about the hours spent getting everything just right. It's the attention to detail. Good just isn't good enough. It's the years spent on the water day after day. When you tie on a bait by Strike King, you're standing on the shoulders of legends.
Pros depend on hydraulic jack plates to get the best out of their boats. Do what they do. Demand Atlas performance. Atlas gets you from the bottom to the top in less than 8 seconds, even with the big 4 strokes. And when you gotta turn right around and get that heavy load back up in rough water, Atlas's innovative design and American-made components will get you there with confidence.
I'm at Depot. Just look for yourself. There's an Atlas jack plate on just about every professional's boat.
The Atlas hydraulic jack plate. You can depend on it.
Hey guys, Aaron Martins here. I'm going to be telling you about a new product by Sunline. It's Siglon PE x8. I've been using it almost extensively all year for my frogging, flipping, drop shotting, shaky heading, worming, jerk baiting. It's by far my favorite Sunline braid. I honestly, I don't say this unless I think it's true, but honestly it's the best braid in the market of any of the braids. Definitely check it out. It's a price point line, $14.95 for 165 yards, and that could last you a whole year, just one spool with using leader material. Again, it's Siglon PE x8. It's my favorite braid, and I think if you use it, it'll be your favorite braid too. AFCO has a new foul weather rain suit called the Hydronaut. A lot of the features that I really like about it first is the speed vent hood. If it's raining out, you know how a person gets wet is when you run down the lake and the hood comes down. With the speed vent hood, it's going to stay up. It has a camera mount in the pocket on the chest. The Hydronaut has a 2-layer, 100% waterproof nylon shell. If you're interested in a rain suit that has a lot of cool features that's going to keep you dry, you need to check out the Hydronaut from AFCO.
All right, I am back here on a Monday, kicking off the week. Man, it's kind of hard flying solo. I didn't realize how much I missed the guy. Trying to produce and get the guests lined up and everything that's associated with what we do. All right, we are ready for our first guest, and really looking forward to talking to this guy. He's had a very, very busy last 3 weeks, coming off an 8th place finish at Grand Lake, and really has it dialed in these last 2 events. Obviously the big victory prior to Grand Lake, and very excited to bring him in and get his take on so many things going on over on the FLW Tour. So let's cue this in. Brian, you there, man?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
All right, man. Thank you so much for taking time out. I know you are headed home right now, going through a little bit of adversity, but, man, we all go through that, don't we?
I don't even call that adversity. That's actually just life. That's just things that happen, you know. Like it just comes with the territory.
All right. Wow. What a whirlwind the past 3 weeks have been for you. It's just been kind of crazy, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has. I didn't even realize so many people had my phone number. It's been absolutely amazing. I've talked on the phone more in the last 3 weeks than I have probably the last 5 years.
Wow. Let's go back a little bit because we haven't really had a chance to talk to you since your victory. But everything leading up to that event, and one of the things that I've said about you is, dude, you have paid your dues. And that's really big for me. I can't imagine what it was like to be on that stage after you going through so much that you've went through just to get to that point.
Yeah, it's you know, it's so weird. It's almost like what I'm about to say is going to be a huge oxymoron, but it's like it's been a really long time, and then at the same time, way faster than I ever expected. I don't know how that makes sense, but you know, I started the journey a very long time ago, you know, 16 years plus ago. But you know, I've only been fishing professionally. This year is my 4th year, so really kind of new to the game, but at the same time, been doing it a long time. But I honestly didn't really. I was prepared to have to wait 10, 15, 20 years before I won, but I did want to find a groove and kind of get settled into the sport for sure. I honestly didn't think a win was that soon going to happen that quickly. I really didn't. Well, it's a big deal for angler to win a tournament.
Well, you definitely deserved it, and I think it's so cool. I got to tell you one thing though, man. When I was doing a little research, there's a website out there. It's your website. It needs to be updated. There's stuff out there. The latest stuff is like from 2013 or 2014.
Yeah. That's not mine. Yeah. So I don't know how to do that and then not bash the guy publicly. But I used to let a guy do my website, and he doesn't do it anymore. So he's kind of holding my my domain name ransom, I guess.
Oh, that sucks. That's horrible.
So yeah, so it's
no,
not mine. I have no control over that.
All right, man. One thing
Pretty weak, huh?
One thing I did notice though, very, very young looking Brian Latimer in some of those pictures on that site.
Yeah. Well, I'm 36. I don't know. That's like on the old side of young is what I call it. Not quite old yet. Definitely not young.
I got you, man. All right, I want to go back to your victory. And I've said this on this show numerous times. There's two times that it's bad to win, although winning is great all the time. But just from a visibility standpoint, one is when you have back-to-back events. And then the second one is the event that is right before the Bassmaster Classic. And that's what you did.
Yeah, I don't mind. I'll do it every year before the Bassmaster Classic. I don't fish bass. So I'll do it every year if that's what it takes.
Well,
it's not bad at all for me.
What was that week like with so much going on in the world of professional fishing? What was going on in your life, and how much did that affect you the following week after your victory?
Oh my God! Literally, I had to. We say our phones are blowing up. My phone literally, like, I have a new phone now.
Wow.
I'm being, God honest truth, so many texts and so many calls and, this podcast, that podcast, this radio show, that radio show, like stuff I've never even heard of before. So it was a great week, busy week. And, pretty much the Bassmaster Classic is a tournament, but it's also pretty much our industry trade show. And so, I had to go to that, and I was not prepared for what I had coming for me at the Bassmaster Classic. It took me about 2 hours to get in the building that day. So,
wow.
I had no idea that many people were watching fishing. So it's been so much love been poured out and so much support and encouragement. I was really overwhelmed with the response that everybody had.
Very cool. All right, I want to get into your Grand Lake performance. A very, very stingy Grand Lake. That's kind of what we've coined up here, how that lake is so many times right before the spawn. What was your practice like? And, dude, you ended up in 8th place, a great finish, but what was your practice like? And then how did the week progress for you?
Okay, so we know every tournament fisherman and every practice, I don't care how good the fishing is, we all say it's tough. X, Y, and Z, and sort of lowballing weights and things like that. And that's really what practice was like for everybody that I know anyway, that I have personal contact with. I never caught 5 fish a single day in practice. And I only caught 5 fish in 3 days of practice. It was like 2 fish the first day, 3 on day 2, and 1 on the last day of practice. And that 1 on the last day of practice may or may not have been a keeper. I'm not sure. But it was terrible. But even with that being said, I was most excited about this tournament when I saw the schedule last July. That was the tournament that I was most excited about because we go to a lot of places that aren't really normal, in my opinion. Coming from the upstate of South Carolina, we fish a lot of clear, deeper impoundments. We have rocks, wood, and docks. And we don't go to a lot of places that have that. There's always some kind of curveball in there a lot of times. There's either tides or there's, a bunch of flats or main river and backwaters, just all this goofy stuff that we don't have in South Carolina. Grass and even Seminole, I've won there, but I can't relate to that style of fishing in South Carolina at all. But Grand Lake I was really excited about because I knew it would be a pattern style lake and it would be fishing that I could relate to. So, and that definitely played a role in how well I did this week because I didn't have really anything to go on from practice. Nothing at all. I didn't catch enough fish to have anything to build on in practice. So I just really had to relate on things that I've done before at home to scrounge up what I could catch.
What area of the lake did you finally concentrate in, or did you get in one area, stay a long time, or were you running all over the place?
I pretty much had about 3 areas that I was fishing. It was the middle part of the lake. I assume that's the middle part of the lake. I fished in Honey Creek, Horse Creek, and then it was one little, one of those longer creeks in between Honey and Horse Creek. But pretty much kept my boat in that section of the lake. That was the best water. We had a lot of muddy water. When I say muddy, I mean it was pretty. It moved around a lot in practice because they were pulling the water down. So during practice we had more muddy water up towards launch, and then as the week kind of progressed, the muddy water actually moved down towards the dam a little bit. But of course, a lot of the creeks were protected. The main river is what held most of the mud. But I didn't want to be in extremely clear water. I wanted to be in the most staying that I could be in, and then it not be, sediment filled. So that middle section is where I ended up spending my time. And it also had some of the best structure, some of the best little transition points, just stuff that made sense to me. When I looked at it, I was like, okay, they got to be coming here to go there, et cetera, et cetera. So I just settled on that middle section, and it just had to just kind of fish what was in front of me.
All right, I have to ask you this because we saw so many of them this week at Grand Lake, but did you throw a spinnerbait with the orange or red kicker blade?
I didn't. I threw a spinnerbait with a white kicker blade, and I caught the bulk of my damage. I had one good day where I absolutely caved their heads in, and I caught those cranking. And most of the fish I caught this week, which I only caught a limit one day of the tournament.
Yeah.
But but the deal was, when I caught a fish, it was over 3 pounds every single time I laid into one. It was over 3 pounds. But I did most of my damage cranking, and I did catch a straggler here or two on a spinnerbait. And that's what I mean. When you're in March, 50-degree water on a lake that has rocks, wood, and dock, cranking, spinnerbait, flipping. Let's go. That's all you need. Like, figure out where do I need to put those baits. I kind of knew that going into it, even though I wasn't catching much. But, those are going to be the 3 baits. When we go to Cherokee next week, same thing. I'm going to take those 3 or 4 deals and figure out where will they work at.
Man, you've been doing this a while now. What's the one element of your game that you feel like that you're really, really dialed into?
I don't know if there's really an element, but there ain't a person on tour, and I mean all of the tours that's more mentally strong than I am. There's not a single person. Everybody out there can outfish me, but there's not a sucker out there that can take the punches like I can. So I think that's my strong point is I do not give up. That is not an option. I can take more low punches than anybody out there. So I think that's my strength.
Wow. What was your prep like going into Grand Lake? Did you do a lot of research? Did you spend a lot of time, or did you just show up?
I would have loved to did that. I was on the phone for a week solid. I would have loved to do some research. I ordered a paper map because I'm still old school, so I like a paper map. Just so I can get a scope of the lake. Looking at the GPS, it's still hard to get a good scope of the entire lake at once, if that makes any sense at all. You can look at the little details good when you're looking on your GPS or Google Earth or things like that. But for me to get a grand scope of, okay, the lower end has more creeks, and then, the upper end is steeper, or, anything like that, I need a paper map to grasp all of that. So I ordered a paper map and looked at it one night while I was doing tackle, and that was pretty much it. I mean, there's been plenty of tournaments that I've watched over the years at Grand Lake, and I already saw that spinnerbait, cranking, flipping is the deal. So I knew it wasn't going to be a complicated tournament. And that's what I mean. That was some of the comfort level that I had going in that. When you go to Seminole, when you go to Okeechobee, there's so many curveballs that those lakes can throw at you that you have to prepare a lot of stuff. But truly and honestly, there is nothing to do at Grand Lake other than crank, throw a spinnerbait, and flip some type of bait that you like. There's just not a lot of other things that you can do there.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really feel the need to over obsess on tackle and prep. The lakes, it's not that big, but everybody spreads out pretty well there because there's a lot of fingers and creek arms and so forth. So it was just one I had a lot of confidence in going into it.
All right, on the instant feedback, Craig from Lake Oneida wants to know, are you planning on fishing the Opens this year?
No, not this year, just focusing on the tour. And I'm probably going to do that for the next 4 or 5 years, just focus on the tour. I've been doing that the last 2 years, and last year I just had a mechanical breakdown going to Champlain and didn't finish the year. But the year before that, I had a pretty good season there and, barely missed qualifying for the lease there. But I just really want to put all my eggs in the basket at FLW there. They've been really good to me, and I think just at this point in my career, it's best for me to focus on those 7 tournaments. It really makes no sense for me to be running around the country chasing that when I have $100,000 tournaments that I can fish for. So I'm all eggs, all in, fishing the FLW for quite some time until I feel like I'm good enough at this to spread myself around.
All right, man. Well, you're sitting in 11th place in the AOY standings. What are your thoughts going into Chick next week?
I don't even pay attention to that, really. I didn't even know that I was 11th in the points. I didn't know I was 17th going in. I wasn't sure where that bumped me up to.
Yeah.
I just want to go to tournaments and fish well. The AOY or any of that's really not really it's not a carrot for me at all at this point in my career anyway. My goal is to go to tournaments and fish well. That's really all I care. If that means finishing 20th, if that means finishing 45th, I don't know. I just want to go to tournaments. I got a little saying that I have in, before practice, just kind of how I prepare mentally. And my deal is just to find my water and catch my fish. I know that seems really elementary and mundane, but it's really a deep statement when you start digging into it, because it's easy to try to find water. You see tournaments, and you want to try to do what you saw, how somebody else won a tournament, but I want to just find the places that work for me and go there and catch my fish that I found in practice at the rest of the events this year. That's all. If that means winning, good. That means top 10, cool. That means finishing 40th, I'm good. If that means finishing 80th, I think a lot of people's perspective is way out of touch on fishing. I've had people, you might finish 40th, 45th, and they're like, oh, dude, it's okay. Keep your head up. I'm like, dude, that was a good tournament for me. I fished well. In fishing, there's times where you finish 40th or sometimes even 60th in FLW Tour. We have 170 guys. So, 60th place is you're finishing in the top third of the field. So, it's all in the perspective of how well you fish for me. The result is down on my priority list at this point.
Right,
if I fish well, I'll have good results.
All right, I want to dive just a little deeper. How much do you, when the event is taking place, how much, I don't want to call it practice, but are you constantly learning based upon the success or failure that you have during the tournament? And and your big part, it sounds like the big part of your game is being able to adjust on the fly the feedback based upon your success or failure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the deal is you don't get to pick the size of the fish that you catch, right? You don't get to pick the size, which is how we score our tournaments, is obviously how big the weight is. But for me, just where I'm at in my career right now, I want to go to events and find fish and be able to go back to those places and catch them. Or maybe it's not going back to those places. I figure out the fish are on the front of docks, and then it changes during the tournament. And then I realize, oh, they went to the bank and they're not using the docks now. When I do that and I make those subtle adjustments, that is a win for me. That is a W. Like, they don't give us trophies for that, But in my mind, in my mental mind, that is a trophy for me. So, the results is what everybody sees and what everybody cares about, but I don't have the luxury of just caring about that. If that's your mindset in fishing, you're going to be very hard on yourself. You only get to win a couple times in your life unless you're, a very few select anglers that have, multiple wins, like a lot of wins, 10+ wins. So I think that's a very self-defeating thought process when you're only result-oriented. That's a very self-defeating process in my mind. So I'm all about how I'm performing, how I'm adjusting. Am I seeing the details? Am I realizing that fish are spawning? Am I realizing that, no, the fish are not spawning? Or am I realizing that they've all moved out deep or they're all shallow? That is what I'm gauging my performance on, is how well I'm recognizing what's going on.
I'm very fortunate that Matt isn't here because he would be having a field day with that. He agrees with you 100%. Yeah. So when he goes back and he listens to the replay on this, he'll get a chuckle out of that one. All right, man. Three events left. There's Cherokee, Chick, and Champlain. With everything going on, how much have you done to get yourself ready, at least for the next one, with the quick turnaround at Cherokee?
Cherokee's going to be a lot like Grant for me. There's not, but I don't see but about 3 or 4 things going down there. So feel pretty strong about that. Those last 2, they could be monkey wrenches. Those last 2 can be a little funky for me. TVA hasn't traditionally been very nice to me. I didn't grow up on those style lakes. I didn't even grow up fishing current. That can be a little funky for me. Those would be my challenges. Smallmouth fisheries, I love them. Fishing tournaments on smallmouth fisheries can be challenging. I love going there, and I enjoy it. It's probably one of my favorite things to do is go up north and catch smallmouth. But from a tournament perspective, I've been all over the map on those, from top 10s to nothing, to bombs. So those last 2, I don't want to say scare me a little bit, but I'm very cautious about the last 2 events. But Cherokee, let the games begin, bring it on. I'm ready for that one.
Cool. How neat was it being on the cover of FLW magazine?
Yeah. I thought it was like a prank call when they called me. I was doing Curtis Niedermeyer called me to do an article for the magazine. I was like, oh, that's cool. Glad to do that. And he was like, oh yeah, and we want to try to get you on the cover too, if we can get a good shot of you. I was like, that's going to be one of those things where you said it, but it doesn't really happen type thing. And I'll be dadgum if, like, 2 days later, a photographer called me and was like, yeah, can you meet here? We're going to try to get a cover shot for you. I was like, oh,
wow,
really? So yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. You've reached it when you've made the cover, dude. And then look what happened as a result. There was no Sports Illustrated jinx or anything like that.
Right. I was really overwhelmed with the feedback I got from everybody on that too. So it was I was glad to be a part of it. That's for sure.
All right, man. It is well known that you're very, very active on social media, YouTube, and everything that you have going on with that. How important has that been in your career? And the second part of that question is, because we talk business so much on this show, I'm curious, do you like the business side of it? Because some guys, they don't want to deal with that at all. They don't want to deal with sponsors. They just want to catch fish and do that. What is your take on combining fishing with the business side of it?
I love it. I've always been a business owner anyway. I've never worked for anyone. So I eat it up. I like seeing the cash register ting. I love it. I like hearing it. So, and that's really, and as a professional fisherman, it's really unfortunate that is a lot of guys' outlook. But really and truly, as an angler, a professional angler, that's all you have to promote your brand in social media. You really don't have anything else. You have nothing else to tell your story other than social media. The tournament organizations, they don't really have the ability to cover 100 guys and tell all of your story during a year. And then fishing is just not on TV that much anymore. Just face it. Just be honest. I don't know that I've watched a fishing show on TV in a year, because I don't ever know when they're on, or either I'm driving, I'm not at home, I'm not in my house. I don't have time to sit there and watch TV. But you scroll through your phone all the time. You're always on your phone. Like, literally, you can be on the phone talking to someone, scrolling on your phone, looking at social media. So to build your brand, which is how you make money in this sport, there's only one option you have, and that's social media. And it's fun for me. I got into the YouTube thing about 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, and really enjoyed it. This is like, it's fun. So, and to backtrack a little bit, that has a little bit to do with why I'm not fishing the opens anymore. I'm kind of doubling down on YouTube, and also starting to do also my tournaments. And I just think that's a great way to build a career and kind of spread your story is through maximizing your platform on those or maximizing your presence on those platforms. So I enjoy it. A lot of guys just want to fish. I don't know what to say about that. I just want to fish too, but I enjoy fishing and capturing that moment and sharing it with people. It's just something I enjoy. So I guess I kind of lucked out on that. It's actually something that I don't see as a burden to do. You're looking at a guy that had to run a company. I ran a landscaping company and tried to do what everybody else is doing. I didn't have a 9 to 5. I have a 7 in the morning until you get done. So I think a lot of that, owning a company and that helped me deal. I know it helped me deal with a lot of the stuff that you deal with as an angler. Like, this stuff is a cakewalk compared to what I had to deal with running a landscaping company. So I think that really prepped the ground for me moving forward. So I'm really thankful for it. I really cussed it a lot coming up. Oh my God, if I was just a normal guy. But in the end, I definitely see how dealing with all of that really prepared the soil for me as a professional angler. It kind of put me ahead of the game. Just dealing with all that, and also becoming a professional way later in life. Guys are turning pro now in their early 20s. And I was like 33 before I even got a crack, even had a chance. So, and looking back, I'm so thankful for that, because there's no way I would have been able to handle the stuff that comes with it back then. There's no way I would have been able to handle it in my 20s, even though I was pursuing it back then.
Do you still have the landscaping business?
This year is my first year full time. Like, I'm pretty much done with it. I always said I would never get rid of it because, and I don't know if I should say I got rid of it, but I kept some equipment, and I still do what we call in the country. You probably can't relate to this term. I still piddle. If it's something if I got time and it looks like it's not too hard,
yeah,
I'll probably go do it, but I'll always kind of piddle with landscaping. It's the only job I've ever had. I've never done anything else. So it's almost like a hobby now, But it's hard to find time in between doing YouTube. YouTube, everybody kind of thinks it's a cakewalk, but it's a job keeping up with YouTube. I do, when I'm home, I upload anywhere from 3 to 5 times a week. And like you said, you're a one-man show. Like, I'm the producer, editor, and everything for that. So definitely going to invest more time into that, and looking to hire some people. If anybody's out there that's in the editing, I'm looking to hire some people to help here. So make this a big machine if you're listening.
There you have it. Well, we got a ton of listeners and a ton of people that listen to us on iTunes, so we'll see if anybody wants to make contact with you. If they're interested, what do they do? How can they get a hold of you?
Reach out to me on social. That's always the easiest way to do it.
All right.
Just on Facebook, it's at Brian Latimer Fishing. And then, of course, my Instagram is just Brian_Latimer. You can also email. It's brianlatimer82@gmail.com.
There you have it. Brian, do you ever have time to fish any local stuff at home?
I would love to. The waters get a little muddy when the entry fees go up as a professional angler. I wish I could. There's 1 or 2 groups that'll let you fish, but I don't get to fish any tournaments at home. I wish I could. I'd fish them all the time if I could, but the tournament scene gets a little funky, so I don't get to do that quite as much as I used to. But boy, I love it. It's fishing derbies at home. That is so much fun, and I have so many good lakes in the upstate of South Carolina that are so good right now too. So I don't get to do that quite as much.
Did you fish a lot? Did you fish a lot of team tournaments in your early years?
Oh yeah. Oh God, yeah. Yeah, that is the footprint. That is how you get to the tour level. There's no doubt. Yeah, man. I fished everything that I could afford to that made sense for me. I did it all. Club tournament. I fished so many club tournaments coming up. Club tournaments, BFLs, that was really my carrot. I fished every BFL that I could afford to get into.
Yeah.
And club tournaments. You know, everybody asks. I'm always baffled that you get a lot of DMs on social media. People say, I want to get started in fishing, or I want to be a pro, but I don't know how to get started. It's like, dude, go sign up for a tournament. It's that simple. Go get your $50. Go get your $35. And get in some daggum tournaments. It's really that simple.
Wow. All right, man. I have one last question. Since the whole team tournament scene, and we ask this every now and then, I'm curious now if the Pro Tour, and it doesn't matter which one, all 3, if there was a team tour, who would be your team partner?
Oh, man, that's tough, dude. Why would you do that? You're going to make me lose friends over that. It would probably, from my tour buddies, if I get to pick from the entire, all 3 tours, Mark Daniels will obviously be my number 1. And we just go way back. So that would be my number 1 for sure, is Mark Daniels.
All right.
If I had to pick tour guys, it would probably be either John Cox or Scott Martin. One of those 2 guys.
Very cool. I'm hoping someday, it's never happened in the last 25, 30 years. I would love to see 2 guys in the boat working together, going up against, 20 other teams or whatever the number is. I think that would be very, very cool. And I think a lot of the fans across the country could really relate and see how you guys work together as a team and really take an enormous amount of information from an event like that.
Well, I can't divulge on everything, but I think you're going to see that.
Okay.
Just hold your pants. I think you're going to see that. I think that's going to be great. We've been talking about that. I would love, and we just don't have a lot of events in fishing. And personally, I don't think we do anyway. And one of the things that we've definitely been in discussing recently is almost like some exhibition-style tournaments. Fun deals, almost like the all-star deal that you have in basketball or baseball, something like that.
Yeah.
I think that's something that our sport needs, and I think we need it from everybody that's involved in the sport, not one organization versus, none of that. It may start off as that, but I hope it grows to where it's just, if you are a professional fisherman, you can be a part of this. But, it may start off as just a 1 or 2 organization type thing. But I think we need that. We need some I think the fishing industry in general has done a terrible job of making fishing look fun. I think we've done a great job of spreading information, but for people watching, it probably doesn't look that fun to them. So I think that would be a great way to make this deal look like those guys are enjoying themselves. Obviously YouTube has been a big part of growing the sport, as well as high school fishing and things like that. And I think obviously the people that are leading the pack when it comes to YouTube, I know everybody gives a lot of clap back to them, but the Googans have done a great job of making fishing look fun, and that's why they're winning, is because they made it look fun. They never claimed to to be that great of an angler, or never claimed to be tournament fishing, or never claimed to know everything about fishing. They just documented having fun, and that's what most of the people that are buying baits and most of our customers are fun fishermen. So I think we could definitely benefit as a whole for the whole industry is by just coming up with something that makes fishing look enjoyable, and that would be team tournaments.
Very cool. Very excited. I want to talk to you about that later. Anyway, last question on the instant feedback. Mike wants to know, have you ever done the kayak thing?
I do that in the summertime when I do kayaks when you have to be in a kayak. It makes no sense for me to go on a lake in a kayak. That makes no sense to me because you can't do anything. You can't go anywhere. That's not enjoyable for me. But I love fishing a kayak in the river. We have shoal bass where I live, shoal bass, and we have spotted bass that run way up the rivers. So in the summertime, I love to get in a kayak and go up the rivers. So yes and no. I'm never going to go to Lake Hartwell and get in a kayak and fish. It makes no sense to me. None at all. You blow around. You can't move anywhere. It's just not really that enjoyable for me. But in the context of fishing very, very small waters, I think it's real cool.
All right, man. Very nice. I can't thank you enough for taking time out. I know you're headed home, but I really appreciate you coming on the show. First time we've had you on. Hopefully it won't be the last, man. You're welcome anytime.
That sounds great. Just call me anytime. I appreciate you guys including me today.
All right, man. Be careful, and best of luck to you for the next 3 stops on the tour.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Take care.
Yes, sir.
All right, there you have it. Brian Latimer, great stuff there. And we're going to, wow, that went a little longer than I thought, but we need to get to Dave Rush. I'm going to try and get him on live via Skype right now. And he was actually at the MLF event that took place at Raleigh, and we're going to get his take on a lot of the stuff that went down in Raleigh. So I'm calling him right now. All right, let's see if I can get him queued up here, and we will. You there, Dave?
What's going on, man?
All right, let me get you queued up here. There you have it, Dave Rush, live via Skype. And, great interview with Brian. I don't know how much you listened to that, but I learned a lot about him.
Man, listen to the entire thing. Very familiar with Brian Latimer, being a South Carolina native myself, and super proud to have the guy representing the state, man. He does everything the right way, and just, some of the perspectives that he gave on his approach to fishing, were very refreshing. You have some guys that probably would have had some success like that, a little bit of celebrity with his YouTube following, social media, but that guy seems to be as down to earth as it comes. And man, the guy just loves fishing, and I think you're starting to see that with a lot of these younger guys. I mean, you look at a guy like Jacob Wheeler. I mean, he reminds me a lot of somebody like Wheeler, Brandon Polinick, Justin Lucas. These guys are just eat up with fishing, man.
Yeah. Very, very cool. And in the beginning of the interview, I talked about how he's paid his dues, and he really has, man. He has worked very, very hard to get to the point where he's at, and it's all sweat equity, man. That's what it is.
Definitely, Mark. We've talked about it for years, and I mean, he just laid out the blueprint. That a lot of professional anglers, give the same advice. But man, start at a level that you can afford, a level that you're comfortable at. Work your way up. Team tournaments, local tournaments, BFLs regionally, and then progress. And that's exactly what Latimer did. He followed a path, and now he's reaping the rewards.
All right, man. Porosnik gets it done in Raleigh. You were there for 3 days of the event. What are your thoughts afterwards?
Man, first of all, congratulations to Jacob Porosnik. Was able to be out on the water on 2 days of the event. I think it was the second day at Lake Jordan. I think I was out there Friday, and then Sunday on Sharon Harris, and that was a really cool experience, Mark. I had not been out on the water during a final day of one of the Bass Pro Tour events. What made this one special in particular to me was the Sharon Harris was a relatively small lake. I mean, you could run from one end to the other in about 10 minutes. I think it was a little bit over 4,000 acres. What was really cool about it was, they have talked about the smaller fields being able to go to smaller lakes that you wouldn't normally be able to have the, 100-boat fields of the past visit. That really stuck out to me. It reminded me a lot of the old whole course format that we've seen in the past from different organizations.
Oh, megabucks? Kind of like the megabucks?
Right, because what was so cool about it, I mean, I had about 3.5 hours out there with a media boat, and within that 3.5 hours, we were literally able to go around and get on all 10 of the guys and see how all the guys were unfolding, their strategies, how they were adjusting to the score tracker. And it was really eye-opening. I think what I noticed from the first event to this event is you're really seeing those guys adjust to this format. Now, I know, they're all saying, hey, we're not fishing any different, and so on and so forth. I've been out covering tournaments with you guys for a decade now. I've been on the water. I've seen a lot of events. And I'm telling you, man, that last 45 minutes of the Bass Pro Tour event on Sharon Harris, I have not seen guys fish that hard, that proficiently, and that fast, especially those top three guys. I mean, it was down to Porosnik, Takahiro, and Jacob Wheeler. And, we were kind of bouncing back and forth between those guys. And, I mean, those guys were getting after it, man. Martin here, too. I mean, those guys that were within striking distance, and they knew. And the thing was, what was so cool about it also was, Wheeler caught, an 8-pounder. I mean, so it wasn't out of the realm of possibility that, hey, man, I got to catch, 5 or 6 2-pounders or whatever. I mean, one bite, literally, a minute, and those guys, were right back in the thing. Really cool event, very cool area, super impressed with the lakes. You think about, most guys think North Carolina, crankbait, high rock, things like that. Sharon Harris was a little bit different. I'm sure there is some deeper stuff. It's not the time of year necessarily for that to be happening, but a lot of reeds, a lot of shallow cover. Those guys were fishing, fishing a lot of shallow stuff, a lot of power fishing. Except Porosnik, man. Porosnik, I don't know if a lot of people are aware of this, but, man, that guy is an absolute wizard with a spinning.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
The proficiency he was showing with, he was fishing a wacky rig V&M chopstick, which is kind of a stick-type plastic bait, on a spinning rod, man. And, I mean, he had it so dialed in. He had patterned this deal and knew exactly what he was looking for in these coves, these little bays. He would run in, and just roll down a bank, boom, 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 hit the high percentage spots onto the next one, man. It was really cool to watch.
I thought the coolest part about the whole week was watching Wheeler catch him on a frog.
Yeah, what's so crazy about that is that's the first week. We got on the water at noon, and we're like, man, let's go to the furthest away guy first, and it happened to be Jacob Wheeler. So we rolled up on Wheeler, and we were able to actually witness in person that little flurry he went on where he caught the 4, he caught the 8 on the frog, man. And he had a nice little flotilla, probably 5 or 6 boats out there watching him. I think one of the boats was 2 or 3 guys in it that had been really following him around to all the different lakes. Big Jacob Wheeler fans, good energy. Super cool to see that go down in person like that. And man, it just started happening. I mean, I guess I wasn't necessarily expecting to see him throwing a frog when we rolled up on him, but it was cool, man. It was reminiscent of the Lake Havasu tournament where those guys were pitching, making short little pitches to the frog with the frog up into the reeds, which I'm sure most people saw if you were watching the Bass Pro Tour live stream there. But man, just close quarters, close combat. getting after it, and Wheeler was feeling it, man. He went on a flurry there, and he was really running away with it. I mean, you kind of thought, man, this thing is getting out of hand here, but Jacob Prosnick able to circle back around and hold him off there till the end, and win his first Bass Pro Tour title there at Stage 3 in Raleigh.
All right, a couple of questions. First one, is that a nuclear power lake?
I'm assuming so. I didn't ask. There was a nuclear reactor.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. There was a nuclear reactor pretty close there, but it wasn't like, it was we never found like a hot hole like you would,
in a power lake. Yeah.
Like I didn't notice any guys, just sitting in an area. I don't know, maybe the water temperature, the time of year, maybe that's not something they would target. Those fish were really looking to spawn. Maybe in the dead of winter. When it's super cold, there could possibly be a hot hole there. I think we were near it, and I really think that they had it buoyed off where you couldn't get back to it. Now, the water coming out of that particular area may have been a little bit warmer. But, yeah, man, really cool lake. Those lakes, I don't know. Obviously, they weren't a secret to the people that live around there. But what was neat about that area is, where we were staying, you could be at all of those lakes within about 25 to 30 minutes. And I feel there were a couple of more lakes within the area that you could have fished as well. So if you're a bass fisherman that lives anywhere near Raleigh, North Carolina, I mean, you've got some options. And I was really impressed. I mean, talked to a lot of the guys, and I think they were frankly, they knew that, all the hype that had been, built up around those lakes. A lot of big bags caught a few years ago. Marty Stone doing a lot of previews on the lakes, had some experience with it. Porosnik actually, the whole week he was just saying, man, just get me to Sharon Harris. If I can get to Sharon Harris, I feel like I have a chance to win. I think he had fished it, numerous times over the years, not very recently, but had that comfortable feeling with Sharon Harris. And man, he came through in the clutch. He said, get me there, and I think I got a chance to win. And sure enough, he did it. I thought something that was very interesting that he said on stage, and you got to witness a little bit if you were watching the live stream, was, he pretty much said, had the sun come out, he does not think he would have probably pulled it out, because he think he would have been sucked into the sight fishing deal. I mean, there were just enough fish up, moving around, starting to bed. He had some history sight fishing on that lake. Really, the cloud cover and that little front that rolled through probably was one of the big keys to him winning, because it kept him from almost defeating himself and spending too much time looking for those sight fish. Instead, just going down the banks, hitting those high percentage spots with that wacky rig, and takes home the title, $100,000.
All right, a couple of things. When you look at Porosnik's win, one of the things that stick out, actually two things. One, the fact that he caught 63 pounds on the final day. The second thing is, after the second round, he was the cut. He finished in 20th place.
And that's, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, that's the second time we've seen that. Jordan Lee just squeaking in down a Toho, man. But, that format lends itself to that. You were talking earlier in the show, Kelly Jordan putting on.
Well, I want to get to that.
Impressive feat, by any standard. Just catching a massive amount of weight there. But, at the end of the day, he's tied with the guy that he's 60-something pounds ahead of. That's the format, man. It's all about making it into that next round. They all start from zero. So, yeah, man. So that's the second guy we have seen really come in right there on the bubble, right there on the cut line, and turn it into a win.
2 ounces. He made the cut. He finished in 20th place by 2 ounces. The other question that I wanted to get to, you mentioned it. I talked about it at the beginning of the show. The feat that KJ had, Kelly Jordan, 82 pounds, I think is what it was. It's unfortunate that it kind of got lost in the shuffle on that. That's got to be one of the most impressive things that I've seen in a single day of professional fishing.
It is, and I was fortunate enough to get to spend some time with Kelly, talking a little bit about it. And Kelly's a guy that you look at his career, he's always big fish Kelly Jordan. When he gets on them, and he gets something dialed in, he catches them in a hurry, and he's known to catch big fish. what a lot of people may not know about it, and I'm sure guys lost fish all week, but KJ lost probably his first 6 or 7 fish in that round, all which were in between 4 and 7 pounds. So had his execution been a little bit better, his luck been a little bit better there with landing those fish, man, we could have seen, well over 100 pounds from Kelly. I mean, that's, talk to him at length about it. That's one of those deals that some guys never find in an entire career, once every 10 years. That just all worked out perfectly, Mark. He found those fish on the last day of practice. They had some rain that night before his first round, and the water was dropping, and it was cooling off. It was in the very back of a creek, very hard to access. Everything he thought that he would not want to have happen for those fish to stay stable was happening. He said he was super paranoid, did not think it was going to hold up, but actually what it ended up doing was drawing all of those fish out into the little channels and cuts in the very back of that area he was fishing. And I mean, they were just all there and they were chewing, man. I mean, really cool to watch. I thought it was, a lot of people asking the question, man, they didn't have a camera on KJ. Why didn't they have a camera on KJ? Whatever. I thought that was a really good move by Major League Fishing. Folks, the area was so hard to access, they made the call to not go back there and not mess with KJ, and actually were able to get some really good drone footage of him doing his thing back there. So very cool. Kudos to them, respecting the fact that, KJ's back in an area that really cannot take any pressure from media boat spectators, and allowed him to do his thing. But, hats off to KJ, man. The weight was erased and he had to start back at 0, but that's a day that, you got to look at and just say, man, that by any measure, that is an awesome day on the water.
All right, which leads me to the next question. Do you think we might see 100-pound day at the next event?
Talk to a lot of anglers about it. I mean, a lot of guys think that could happen in a situation such as a Grand Lake. If you find a couple of schools of offshore fish, if they get in that situation, and get the school fired up, thinking that could be a possibility. I don't know, man. I mean, who knows? I mean, this is our first year with this format in a tour type event. So who knows? It's possible. Chickamauga, I mean, they're giants. I mean, just multiple double-digit fish coming out of Chickamauga over the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Just they are up. They are ready to roll. That place is about to bust wide open if it's not doing so already. And those guys could hit it at the right time, right place. It could be the perfect storm there at Chickamauga. I mean, you could see, another deal like Sharon Harris. They're in there for sure.
All right, my MVP of the week is kind of off the wall, but it's something that I never really thought of until a discussion took place between me and you, and I started thinking about it. I was like, wow, I never, ever thought of this situation until we talked about it. And my MVP of the week, dude, is the guys in the boat weighing the fish, all right? Those guys, they don't get a day off. They are working their tails off. I think there's a lot of pressure that people don't realize, the pressure that's on these guys. And I watched a lot of Major League Fishing during this event. I watched a lot of the FLW too. I had 2 computers going on at the same time. But the thing that I noticed is their job is so critical when ounces matter. And I never really thought of the fact that they don't get that day off that the anglers do. Now, I don't know how much they're getting paid or what they are, but if they're not getting paid well, they deserve to be paid well, because they are definitely the MVP so far, man.
100%, Mark. I don't know exactly how their rotation works, whether they have some alternates and some of the guys get days off or whatever, how that really lays out for Major League Fishing. But those guys have got to be on point. I mean, they are one of the most, if not the most critical elements of that whole system. not only do they have to be on their game, but I mean, on time. I mean, when it's coming, the clock's ticking. I mean, those seconds matter. So, if you notice watching it a lot of times, as soon as that guy hooks up, the boat official is up. He's got the scale out. He's ready to go. He's ready to weigh that fish and, register it as soon as that angler gets it in and gets it unhooked and they get those scales zeroed. So, yeah, man, hats off to those guys. Long days, long nights. I mean, those guys are out, 4:30, 5 in the morning. That the post-game show not getting over till 6:30, 7 at night. Those guys, a lot of them are having to bring boats, equipment back to the post-game shows, ride back with anglers, so on and so forth, and then turn around and do it again. I mean, I would say those guys are there 9 or 10 days on the road, working hard, daylight till dark, literally. So hats off to those guys.
All right, I mentioned at the beginning of the show the hiring of Jeff Klatchko. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. I really hope that this guy can go out and generate some more revenue, because with the number of events that these officials have, I don't know what they're getting paid. I have no idea. But what I'm saying is they need to have these guys full-time. This is what their job needs to be, because now you've got all of the BBT events, you've got the other events, and this is a critical part to the success of this organization. These guys need to be full-time guys, and they need to be represented and paid what they deserve to be paid, because without those guys, this thing doesn't happen. So I'm hoping that he can go out and get some of these non-endemics signed up to where not only are the anglers taken care of, but those officials need to be taken care of also.
Absolutely, Mark. And one thing for sure you can say about Major League Fishing and the Bass Pro Tour is they have a plan in place. You're seeing the pieces of the puzzle be put together event by event, month after month, day by day. I'm sure this was something that they had planned. I'm sure it just didn't pop out of nowhere. Hiring someone like that has those relationships and that high profile credentials, frankly, working with things like Sunday Night Football. I mean, you Google that guy's resume.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty impressive.
He's
pretty
big time, man.
And he didn't get to those positions for no reason. And it will be very interesting to see how quickly we start to see some changes in the sponsorship lineup for the Major League Fishing Bass Pro Tour based on that hire.
Yeah. One of the things on his resume that I didn't mention earlier, he's also a sponsorship and media sales consultant for the Premier Lacrosse League. So kind of that niche sport that he's getting non-endemics involved. So this has got to be just a huge move by Major League Fishing to see what they can generate from a non-endemic standpoint.
Sure, man. It's going to be an interesting few months. Not only with the fishing, we've got, some weeks coming up where we have all 3 tours going on at one time. You're going to have 3 monsters up.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of people are going to be getting fired that week. Just blowing out their work internet there, watching all 3 tours live. But man, I mean, not only the fishing aspect of it, we're heading around the mid-season point where you start to see Angler of the Year races, cup qualifications, things like that really shake out. But from a business perspective, which you and I are very interested in this game, some really big moves could be taking place here. One of those, which you just saw the press release about the non-endemics. Major League Fishing has contended that is a huge part of their plan moving forward, and frankly, it's a necessary part of the plan to grow this thing moving forward into the future.
Well, they hit a home run hiring this guy. I know he wasn't cheap, but I think the dividends and the rewards for all people's involved with Major League Fishing is definitely on the forthcoming. So we'll see about that. All right, man. We have to talk about it. I just want to ask real quick, did you get to see Matthew over the weekend?
Sparingly. not intentionally sparingly. Don't take offense, Matt. We're a little busy there at the Bass Pro Tour, but did get to watch, man. I thought he did a great job.
He did.
was a good first event for him to be involved with his history and knowledge base on Grand Lake. Was able to offer a great insight, as far as breaking down the lake, what those guys are doing, and I thought he did a great job. I thought he and Travis had a good chemistry, on set, and great job to him this week. I mean, those guys did a good job with an adverse tournament, frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, tough weather, not the greatest fishing conditions, but a lot of people like tournaments like that. We talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
We talk to anglers. They like a grind. Maybe not exactly, what they were hoping for as far as fish catch, but every fish counted, every loss counted. They were very critical. Thought those guys did a great job, and another FLW Tour event in the books, man. I can't wait to hear what Bradley Hallman has to say about his performance there on Grand Lake. A solid performance. I'm sure he's probably got a few places where he zigged where he should have zagged, but maybe not. Maybe he executed his game plan, and I think that's what's really cool about having Brad on the show, to have him break down, his thought process, and especially on Grand Lake. I think people are going to learn a lot from what he has to say about Grand Lake.
No, I agree. All right. Do you use the orange kicker? I'm showing another picture of that in the Carolinas at all.
Man, yes and no. It is not a huge thing in the Carolinas, not, anywhere near what it is in Oklahoma.
I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked that Brian did not use an orange kicker blade. Said he used a white one.
Yeah, it's pretty much, muddy water around here is pretty much, gold Colorado and an Indiana or single Colorado mark. But I thought what was interesting is a lot of those guys were going with that white and chartreuse combination there at Grand Lake, which is something in the past that, we've associated with really working a spinnerbait fast up around smallmouth, things like that. And a lot of guys fishing a willow leaf where you thought they might be fishing a Colorado. Yeah. I don't know if that was a pressure thing or how they got onto that. That intrigues me. How did those guys get onto that deal? Is it just something that, they had up their sleeve that we really didn't have, much thought about? But I think, white, a lot of us don't think about white as a good muddy water color, but it really makes sense.
Yeah. Well, the man that sits to my right, obviously, he's trying to get ready for Kentucky Lake this week. Really kind of a big week for him. Kentucky Lake has been a little stingy, just like Grand Lake, probably even more stingy. But he needs to go out and he needs to have a good, solid event. Doesn't need to finish in the top 10 or anything. Just a solid event will continue and build a little momentum for the remainder of the coastas that he's fishing.
Yeah, Kentucky Lake's been up and down. I mean, you see some huge bags winning tournaments, and then you see, the next week you'll see a tournament where it was really a grind out there, for lack of a better term. Matt's obviously been on Kentucky Lake several times, Kentucky and Barkley during Elite Series events, things of that nature. Not sure his experience level on fishing at Kentucky Lake, but we've been out there enough where he knows the areas that historically produce on Kentucky Lake. It will be very interesting to follow along, on his journey this week and see how it all pans out, man. That lake has had a lot of attention on it, obviously, with the Asian carp deal. It's not as good, and then you see, guys catching 40-pound bags. I don't know. I know they are doing some things to try to control that problem. It'd be interesting to see how that is panning out. Whether these spring tournaments compared to last year, the year before, the comparisons on the weights and things of that nature to see if what they're doing is actually helping solve the problem there on Kentucky Lake. But he could follow along with it on his AFCO Bass Boot Camp deal. I think today or tomorrow, sometime soon, the episode at the Classic will be dropping. Man, that one is chock full of cool behind the scenes stuff. We had a great time there at the Classic. Matt was filming the whole time for the AFCO Bass Boot Camp, and also filming for the 20 Feet Deep documentary that we have coming soon on the Classic. A lot of stuff went down there. You'll get a little taste of it in Matt's latest episode, and I'm sure he's got the cameras rolling today, man. So you will see the good, the bad, and the ugly that happens on the front deck of Matt Pangrak's boat.
All right, very nice, man. Who you got winning the national championship? The Final Four is set. Any thoughts on that?
Man, I mean, what are you thinking about Virginia?
Wouldn't that be crazy to lose to a 16 seed in the previous year and come back and win the whole thing? I think it'd be kind of cool.
It seems like things like that tend to happen.
Yeah.
I know, not a lot of happy people in the state of North Carolina yesterday. Tar Heels get knocked out. Duke gets knocked out. I'm glad I got out of there before that was final.
Yeah, well, I've got to pull. I've got to pull for the Big 12. I'm pulling for Texas Tech. I think it's really cool. It would be nice. And I can't even remember what the matchups are. Who does Michigan State play? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out, the difference between shotgun and elimination and how to get to each of the lakes, man. My head was spinning just trying to figure all that out. But I'll probably take a look at it tonight and see what we got going on.
All right. I know Steve Kennedy's real happy. He's more football, but he was pretty fired up about the Auburn team.
Man, I mean, if you follow Steve on social media, he's out there with toilet paper and all kind of stuff. I mean, he's just a big kid at heart. I mean, he's out there with the college kids at Auburn, just toilet paper and everything, having a big old time. But, I mean, to his credit, man, it's been a while since Auburn has been a player in basketball.
Since Charles Barkley.
I was just about to say, I'm sure old Chuckles is probably pretty happy, man. The round mound to rebound is probably feeling his oats. Auburn Armada is getting it done.
All right, man. We'll talk about it. All right, great show tomorrow. We've got Hank Cherry live from Lake Hartwell during his practice. He's kind of going to give us a little bit of insight on what's going on this week at Lake Hartwell. And then, as we've mentioned previously on the show, Brad Hallman in studio on Wednesday breaking down Grand Lake. So, Dave, you'll be at Hartwell for a couple days, one day. Is that true?
A few days. Trying to figure out now exactly when we're going to go up there, what we're going to do. I'm going to reach out to a few people, see how things are going up there. We got a cold front that just rolled through. It's been really warm, man. All indications would have pointed to fish being up on the bank, but we had one of those late spring cold fronts roll through. Frost warning up there this morning, windy. Supposed to settle out by the end of the week, though. Massive lake, a lot of different things going on up there right now. It'll be interesting to see how those elite guys break it down. First time an actual elite series event will be held at Hartwell. A couple classics, but not an elite series event.
Yeah. All right, good stuff. Great show tomorrow. Make sure you check us out, same time. Dave, thanks for taking time out to give us a scoop on what went down in Raleigh. And then I also want to thank Brian Latimer for taking time out on his way home to be a part of the show. Hank Cherry tomorrow. Everybody, stay tuned. We're out of here.